I've received some comments and questions about whether or not the ATF, with a new rule they're trying to promulgate dealing with explosives, are they coming for our ammunition in our homes? Well, I don't think so, but let's talk about it when we get back. It's important to understand this. Hey folks, I'm Mark Smith, host of the Four Boxes Diner, proud American gun owner, constitutional attorney, member of the United States Supreme Court Bar, and author of First They Came for the Gun Owners, the A to Z guide about how the anti-gunners seek to take away our gun rights in all respects. Check it out if you don't own a copy, also available on Audible and on Kindle. All right. So part of what I do at the Four Boxes Diner is I flag important issues that I have concerns about that you're aware of. I also bring you some news and analyze it beyond just reading CNN headlines. Sometimes I have to point out that there is hysteria and hyperbole going on in the Second Amendment community, which we need to recognize as such and not overreact. Let me be clear. No one is more concerned about ATF overreach or Department of Justice overreach or governmental overreach involving our right to keep and bear arms than I am. Okay? With that said, part of my job here at the Four Boxes Diner, as I see it, is to tell you what's really important and what are imminent, clear and present dangers and threats to our rights, and to flag things that are not a clear and present danger to our rights right now, maybe down the road, but this allows us to prioritize where I think we should be focusing on the real threats and not things that are really more hypothetical or speculative. And this is why I give you this background by virtue of this issue that some folks in the Second Amendment community have flagged dealing with proposed regulation by Merrick Garland, the Department of Justice, and the ATF, promulgated on and around August 23rd of 2023, dealing with the annual reporting of explosive material storage facilities to the local fire authority. Specifically, the purpose of this regulation, which I'll put a link to down below, this proposed regulation at least, is that the Department of Justice is proposing to amend the ATF regulations to require that any person who stores explosive materials notify on an annual basis the authority having jurisdiction for fire safety in the locality in which the explosive materials are being stored, of the type of explosives, magazine capacity, and location of each site where such materials are stored. Okay. So some people in the Second Amendment community have raised a red flag here. That is the ATF trying to go after our small arms ammunition. Are they trying to go after magazine capacity, as in the attack on large capacity magazines, which is, is a political propaganda term for just standard capacity magazines that hold more than 10 rounds, let's say. I'm happy to report some good news here, is despite the fact that some people in the community have spent time on this topic raising alarms, the truth is, I don't think this is a concern. I don't think you should lose sleep about this. Now, we should always watch every single thing the ATF does and everything the Department of Justice does every single day, 24/7. I do not disagree with that. But this notion that this regulation they're talking about is going to somehow impact ordinary American gun owners or Second Amendment rights is not true as I see it. Let me tell you why. This regulation comes out of a statute, a criminal statute under federal law, 18 U.S.C. 845. I repeat, 18 U.S.C. section 845. The reason why this is very important is this does deal with the storage of large quantities of things like black powder, because as you know, going all the way back to the founding, black powder was indeed viewed as something extremely flammable. And if you had a lot of this black powder in like the city of Boston, which was made at the time of mostly out of wood, and a building caught fire with this sort of black powder in it, it could burn down the entire city. This was not a speculative concern, but keep in mind that the entire city of London was literally burned down in a fire years before the American Revolution. So the founding fathers, the colonists, the English-speaking people, and the world at large was fully aware of the dangers of fire burning down cities, because it literally happened in London, years before the American Revolution and the Great Fire of London. Now, I bring this to your attention because you should not worry about this regulation messing with our ability to have small arms ammunition or magazine capacity or anything like that, because there's a very specific set of exceptions that you need to be familiar with that basically exempt or accept all the things that I think the Second Amendment community should be worried about here. Specifically, if you look at, again, statute 18 U.S.C. 845, now these exceptions are quite clear in terms of what they protect. Specifically, the exceptions from the statute that requires this reporting to local fire authorities include small arm ammunition and components thereof. Let me repeat. This is actually in the statute itself. Section 4 is small arms ammunition and the components thereof is exempted, accepted from this rule. So again, it doesn't cover small arms ammunition because the statute says it does not cover small arms ammunition or its component parts. Also under Section 5 of the statute, there's another critical thing. This is commercially manufactured black powder. Commercially manufactured black powder in quantities not to exceed 50 pounds. Percussion caps, safety and pyrotechnic fuses, quills, quick and slow matches, friction primers, intended solely for sporting, recreational, cultural purposes, and antique firearms. These are all exempted. And again, you hear what I just said? That if you have more than 50 pounds of black powder in your home, facility, whatever it is, yeah, you fall within the scope of reporting, arguably. But if you have less than 50 pounds of black powder, then you are exempted from this concern because the statute specifically exempts you. So again, I think if you look carefully at 18 U.S.C. section 845 at the exceptions, you'll find that virtually all American gun owners are exempted. Now, again, if you have more than 50 pounds of black powder in your home or in your office or whatever it is, be very careful because it's highly flammable and you really do have something that is potentially dangerous there. And yes, in that situation, it looks as if you would have to report. But again, you already have the duty to report to local fire authorities. I believe this regulation is simply changing it, so now you have to report on an annual basis. But at the end of the day, I don't think this should impact ordinary American gun owners in any respect. Beyond that, keep in mind that the U.S. Supreme Court has actually already spoken on black powder regulations at the time of the founding. They specifically talked about these in the context of the Heller case in 2008 that said that founding era black powder restrictions were not a basis for any kind of modern day gun control because, again, black powder regulations are about preventing fire. These are fire code regulations. These are not gun control regulations. So again, there's a long history here of recognizing that black powder is indeed, even today, highly flammable and potentially dangerous in massive quantities. So that's what this is talking about. So if people say that this proposed regulation is about the ATF seeking to take away our, quote unquote, large capacity magazines or small arms ammunition or cartridge cases or anything like this, the answer is no, I don't think that's true. Again, that does not mean I trust the ATF at all. I'm not saying to trust them, but of all the things that we have to worry about in the Second Amendment community, I would say this proposed regulation dealing with ATF powder regulations is not what we should be worried about. We should track it, but again, given these clear statutory exceptions, I don't think American gun owners should be losing sleep over this problem right now. We have bigger fish to fry, and that's where we should be focusing our attention, including the Rahimi case before the Supreme Court, all the various gun control litigations across the country, and of course, making sure that office holders across the United States support the Constitution and do not subvert the Constitution in the name of law and order, which some rhino Republicans like to do. And we have to make sure that those people behave. I think that is where the focus should be and not necessarily on this debate about black powder reporting requirements, because I don't think they impact really American gun owners in the normal sense. Okay, folks, hope you learned a little bit something here today at the Four Boxes Diner. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. We'll see you again soon at the Four Boxes Diner.
Orders up. Table 2A.